Washington Commanders 3-round 2025 mock draft on deck here. So we're going through some of the teams that are looked at as kind of bottom of the league, lowest when it comes to Super Bowl odds, and looking ahead at what could happen following the 2024 season. These are teams that they're not expecting necessarily to be in playoff competition, to contend for their division titles, anything like that. I know some fans will argue that point, but I think most reasonable fans of the Washington Commanders realize this is year one of a rebuild. This is going to be a process. It's not going to be instant gratification, in my opinion. Now, they did go spend a lot of money, and they tried to fortify a lot of areas of their roster. I think it's a really interesting organization. Dan Quinn, I'm a fan of him as a leader. I'm also a fan of Dan Quinn's ability to pivot away from the Seattle traditional cover three type of system. That's where he came from, right? And he was able to pivot, moving to Dallas after being the Falcons head coach and taking them to a Super Bowl appearance. He was able to pivot and change his stripes a little bit. So I thought that was really impressive by Dan Quinn. And again, he's a positive, high energy guy. Cliff Kingsbury, very interesting. He has a long history of working with quarterbacks, and Jayden Daniels comes in as their quarterback of the future, franchise quarterback. Hopefully, I cannot wait to see how it plays out. I love Jayden Daniels' rushing ability. Like, he's going to immediately be one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league, one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. I love the deep ball as well. He can absolutely spin it, throwing the ball down the field. Love his pass catchers too. We're going to talk about them. But the one thing about Jayden Daniels that really worries me is his inability to avoid contact. Like, this is a thin quarterback that runs into hits with reckless abandon. So that part scares me a little bit. But looking at the pass catchers he has to throw the football to down the field, Terry McLaurin, love it. Jahan Dotson, I know he didn't have the best sophomore campaign last year. I think Jahan Dotson is a fantastic football player. I think that duo is great. I like bringing in Zach Ertz as a stable veteran presence. I love Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State. I think he's going to be a good move tight end for them. He can move all around the formation. I like Luke McCaffrey a lot. I thought it was a tad bit early getting him on day 2, but Luke McCaffrey, a good football player that obviously has the NFL bloodlines, with his brother being the best skill position player in the NFL. Maybe, probably. Right, Christian McCaffrey, unbelievable. Definitely the best running back in the NFL. Austin Eckler's still a good receiving back. So I like the pieces there from a skill position standpoint for Jayden Daniels in this offense a lot. I do not love the offensive line, and that's putting it lightly. I think there's a lot of question marks and issues with that offensive line. And when you're talking about a rookie quarterback with a less than desirable offensive line, that's tough for me to stomach. Don't love the edge group, right? Yes, you have Dorrance Armstrong, you have Dante Fowler, a couple guys that Dan Quinn's worked with. You also brought in Clelin Ferrell, who, as a Jaguars fan, I will always appreciate Mike Mayock for bringing in Clelin Ferrell with the 4th overall pick a few years back, allowing Joshua Hines-Allen to fall to the Jaguars. That's neither here nor there. Getting back to the Washington Commanders, I don't love the edge group. A group I do love, that interior defensive line. My God, you add Johnny Newton to a room that already features John Allen and Daron Payne. I mean, sheesh, that is really impressive. That might be the best interior defensive line in the NFL. Frankie Louvu will be good for them, in my opinion. I think Dan Quinn will know how to use him. Bobby Wagner, does he still have it? I know he can't really run the way he used to, but he can still tackle. He can still hit. He's still a smart football player. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work out. It'll probably be fine. Again, I think Dan Quinn knows what he's doing. I can see the path for the secondary, right? Like Benjamin St-Juste, Michael Davis playing some bully ball on the outside. I think safety will be interesting with Derek Forrest and some of the other guys they have there. Mikey Sainristil and Quan Martin. I love those two players in the secondary. Probably nickel type guys for them. Guys that can maybe have some versatility, but I really like both of them. I was a huge fan of Quan Martin coming out last year, and Sainristil, same thing this year. But I have to be honest about the Washington Commanders. With a rookie quarterback, Offensive line issues, in my opinion, edge issues, the overall talent level in the secondary. I would not be surprised if this team is one of those teams vying for the number 1 pick. I really wouldn't. I'm also just not a big believer in Cliff Kingsbury. And I know not everyone's going to like that, but that's just how I see it. I've not been overly impressed with Cliff Kingsbury throughout his career. But Washington Commanders, they are slotted in at 4 right now. So they have the 4th lowest Super Bowl odds. It's got to be tackle or edge at 4, right? I think you're going to probably see some teams move up for quarterback, at least one team probably moving up for a quarterback, probably Carson Beck in my opinion. But it's got to be tackle or edge, as I mentioned. You need help on the offensive line. You need, you've got edge players that are serviceable, right? You do. But you got to have somebody with more upside than what they have, in my opinion. I think James Pierce out of Tennessee, he has the length, athleticism, bend. He can convert speed to power. I think you want him to continue to get stronger and add mass to the frame. But James Pierce, he can impact the backfield in a big way. And I think having him paired up with whoever you still have on the interior of the defensive line following the 2024 campaign, it's going to be a nice pairing. And I think that he's this type of player that Dan Quinn would love to have. I think James Pierce is going to have a monster year at Tennessee, probably going to lead the nation in sacks or be very close to it. So I think that landing a player of that caliber would be huge. Again, I could see it being offensive tackle as well, but we're going to go edge here for the Washington Commanders at 4. Then at 36, offensive lineman Jonah Savaiinaea. Shades of Talise Fuaga here. I thought Talise Fuaga could play tackle in the NFL. Still think he can. I think he would be best. I think you would maximize his skill set at guard. I think the same thing about Savaiinaea here. A mauler who I think for his size, which he's a very, very big human being, is a good athlete. But he's not a great athlete, all things considered, in my opinion, compared to some of the better tackles in the league. So I would like to see him play guard. You could do either, right? You could try either way with Savaiinaea. And then at 67, we get a legitimate tackle who I think could vault himself into the first round conversation this year at Oregon. That's Josh Conerly, a big time athlete. You just see his movement ability, the length. It all adds up for him. He is a gifted football player. He needs to develop consistency with his hands, with his sets, more experience, more time on task. But this is a football player that has the potential to be a legitimate plus starter in pass protection at left tackle. And so with our first 3 picks here in this 3-round mock draft for the Commanders, we massively upgrade our edge upside. We massively upgrade our protection for Jayden Daniels, which I think is paramount for the Washington Commanders moving forward. You have got to get better on the offensive line. You have got to get better, more talented at edge. And I think we've done that with this mock draft. So if you're a Commanders fan, I would love to know what y'all think about this one. You can drop your thoughts in the comment section below. If you appreciate the NFL draft content, way early NFL draft content, hit that like button, subscribe, notification bell. We're going to keep on doing this for a few more teams here that, again, are lower in the projected Super Bowl odds. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Have a good one.